come up with a whole new playbook, but you knew that it was going to be, you know, some additional quarterback runs. It was going to be some pocket things. You know, so it's hard to replicate those things. You don't have much film on them, but I mean, you know, he came out, he didn't do anything that surprised us necessarily, but he definitely executed. I think his speed and his ability to get out of the pocket is obviously something we struggle with. And then those quarterback runs, they make you account for, you know, all 11 defenders have to get involved in that run front. And they just did a great job. You know, the Eagles do a great job running the ball all year. And I think, you know, this is no different.
Yeah, without a single practice rep, it was pretty obvious going into that game. Jalen Hurts is probably going to use his legs a lot more than Carson Wentz. Just the difficulty level, like you almost didn't need to practice to know that that's what they're going to do. But how difficult was it between the whites?
Oh, I mean, it's hard, you know, and we haven't played really a quarterback, you know, with that kind of mobility all year, especially with the design runs for the quarterback. Like I said, they make you use all 11 defenders, which is not the type of defense that we normally play. We had a plan, and that plan was pretty simple, but simple isn't always easy to execute. We did, obviously, in the first half, they got a big lead on us, played tighter in the second half, but, man, it just created some issues for us.
Jink, you won a Super Bowl with the Saints. You backdoored and won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. I played with you in Philly. You caught that? I was like, backdoor. I'm saying, like, you won a Super Bowl in both places, my dog. But the fact of the matter is, many people in Philly consider you a legend. How difficult was it emotionally to have to go back to a team which you were just with, won a Super Bowl with, and then compete against those same guys who you've played with to win it all?
Yeah, I don't think it was difficult. For me, it was actually, you know, it was more fun, right? Like you got your ill feelings about how you left an organization, but the guys that, you know, on the field are the same guys that, you know, I call brother, that I, you know, share lockers with, share stories with. And so it was good to compete against them. You know, those matchups with Zach Ertz and people like that, where in practice, you don't know, you know, who would get the best of who. Now we get to prove it, you know. So that, to me, although we didn't get the result that we wanted, obviously, you know, it was the way I left Philadelphia wasn't the way I wanted. But I was proud of those guys, man, walking off the field to see kind of all they've been dealing with, to see that they still got the fight and those players are still, you know, getting after it, man. You know, as a friend and peer in this league, I was definitely proud of that unit.
Let's talk about what they've been dealing with, because I know you're one of the smartest guys. You are the smartest guy I ever played with, one of the smartest guys in the league. You know what's going on in the league. Are you surprised by the way this Carson Wentz situation has unfolded? Because you were there. You saw Carson in his MVP campaign.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, even as early as last year, he had some of his struggles. But I think whenever you have, you know, how he's playing and you add on some other, you know, things with injuries, the offensive line being banged up, it just doesn't make for a great situation, doesn't make for winning football. It's well documented that he's struggling this year, but I think he's a talented quarterback who can get back on his feet when surrounded by the right people and put in the right situation. You know, and so it's been hard as a former teammate and friend. It's been hard to kind of watch that at a distance. But, you know, this league is very, very competitive. It's tough to stay kind of on the top. You have to always be developing your game and always improving.
Yeah, you guys coming off a loss right now, but let's talk about some of the more positive times when you guys beat the Bucs, not once, but twice this year, including 38-3 in Week 9. What you guys do to the Bucs? Why they can't handle y'all? What's up?
So I give you a formula for it, but for us, I just think we match up well. You know, especially on defense, we got a front that can get after the quarterback. You know, we're not going to deal with the Jalen Hurts. We got Tom Brady, who's going to be in the pocket. We know where he's going to be. We can meet him there. I think on the outside, we match up well. You know, being able to match up with their skill positions, even though they got a Hall of Fame roster. You know, we match up well. And I think, you know, offensively, we've had to change depending on the quarterback, you know, who it was, and do what we needed to do to win that game and how we needed to win it. And that took an entire team. So for us, you know, the division, to win the division is the #1 goal for every team out there. And so, you know, we're going to be up for those divisional games.
I saw you mature over our years in Philadelphia. I would assume you're a much different player in New Orleans this time around. Saints been close the last 3 years. A BSPI call, losing in overtime, Minnesota Miracle, I think. What's the difference, bro, in this Saints team and those Saints teams that knocked on the door but couldn't necessarily kick it down? What do you think the difference is for this team now that you're a part of in that defense?
Well, I think that's yet to be seen, right? I think, again, we have a team that's packed with talent that is being able to weather the storm when there's some adversity. They lost Drew last year and was able to step in with Teddy Bridgewater. Taysom Hill's doing the same thing this year. You got a defense that's playing really well at the right time of the year. Obviously, not last week, but we've been going on a nice stretch. So I think we have what it takes to get to where we want. But like those other teams, I think that's yet to be determined. That's going to come down to the leadership and can we improve every single week and take those lessons that we've learned throughout the season and bring those into the postseason, because we know the season starts all over when you get to the postseason. So for us, it's not about that end goal right now. It's about week in and week out, how do we improve? How do we get better individually and as a unit, as a team, knowing that will prepare us for those moments later in the year.
Let me just shout you out, because we had your accolades on the screen next to you while you was talking. 3-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Super Bowl champ, first-round pick, 7 defensive touchdowns. But the most impressive thing to me, you've missed like 1 snap in like the last 5 decades. Like, you don't miss snaps. What do you take the most pride in when you think about your career? Is it the fact that you literally don't miss plays, or what do you take the most pride in?
I mean, honestly, I think that's, availability and accountability is what we hear as soon as we come into the league, right? Like, can we count on you and are you available? And so for me, I definitely take pride in being available. But I think that the number one thing that I take pride in, man, is like, am I making my teammates better? When I come into a room, does that room get better or does it get worse? And for me, that's always been something I've tried to do. And I think I've been able to accomplish. So for me, I'm trying to give every player in there as many nuggets and information and knowledge that I have about the game, knowing that it makes us better as a unit. And then hopefully, whenever I'm done playing this game, everybody around me leaves a better person.
Okay, I got another difference question, just like Acho did. The difference, not trying to be divisive, but I did hang up the pads to put on this nice suit, as you have in your suit collection as well. The difference, Drew Brees, we know, one of the greatest quarterbacks to play ever. But then Taysom Hill, the difference in how you approach the game and how you see the game with Taysom Hill under center and Drew Brees.
Yeah, I think, obviously, offensively, the philosophy changed a little bit. You lean more on your running game, time of possession. Punting is not necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, a lot more quarterback runs. And we've been running the ball really well over this stretch, and Taysom is taking over, and that's been part of it. And then that's opening up for him in the play-action pass and movement passes. And from a defense, we understand, okay, we're going into games. We're not going to put up, a ton of points, so our margin for error gets a little bit smaller. But for us, it's really no different. We want to come out and dominate every time we touch the field anyway. And so for us, we hadn't really had to adjust the team much when Drew's out. Obviously, the philosophy of how we need to win each particular game just changes. And I think, every team has to be willing to kind of maneuver and be malleable, because you can't win every single game the exact same way. You're going to have to figure out what wins today. And each week we're trying to figure out that formula.
Jink, I'm not going to let you off the hook, big dog, because I came here today knowing you was on the show. I brought out one of my subtle but fresh suits. I was expecting a 3-piece with a hat. Dog, you got your own suit line. I was expecting some heat, and you got a kingpin chair, but you ain't bring no heat, Jink. I'm a little disappointed. I need a retort. I need an explanation, bro.
Let's talk about disappointment. I've been trying to get you my Seville suits for years now, and every time you level up and get a new job, I be waiting like, oh, he got the new check, now he's gonna come shop with support. But so I'm chilling today. This quarantine is hard to get dressed when you know you ain't in the house all day. But you on the camera every single day and ain't supported your boy yet. So
hey, Marcellus, it's the holiday season. You told me you was gonna gift me something. I need you to gift me one of Jenkins' DeMario Seville suits, okay, for the new year.
Right. It's funny, man. You expected a lot more than this. He showed up in an Orange Pro Club 2X, and you're like, hey, man, where about the tickets go? I get it. Well, Malcolm mentioned chilling right now. And speaking of chilling, I got to do my job. Jameis Winston, it's interesting. There was a conversation when Taysom Hill was inserted into the starting lineup after the game before we saw spot duty from Jameis Winston that he potentially could have been your starting quarterback going forward. Just talk about Jameis in terms of what you see in practice and his growth, and is he ready once again to be under center as a starter?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jameis is really, it's hard to come from the position that he did, right? All of the hype, to being a starting quarterback and who he is as a person, to now fall into a backup role. But I think he's done everything that he can to embrace the moment, to be a great person in the locker room who's encouraging, but also take the time to develop his game. And I think, everybody knows he has arm talent, put up huge numbers as far as touchdowns and yards. The biggest thing is the decision-making and taking care of the football. And I think that's one of the things that Sean Payton and his offense is trying to develop with him. He's definitely gotten better and better each week in practice. He's helping us as a defense. And so I think that, I think he will be a starter in this league. Again, whether it's on this team or another team, I think he has the ability. Obviously, I think he needed that year to really just settle himself and develop his game.
Now, this has been the best interview in terms of decor. That stained brick wall behind you, the kingpin chair. Acho can say what he wants about the shirt, but we know that you'll